Hello, this is Ken Ferrie with this week's Boots in the Field report. I know it's still February, but that snow last Friday, that was kind of a surprise. We had about 4 inches here at the office. You know what made it worse? I was doing a Zoom yield map meeting with one of our customers who overwinters in Florida. Now he was sitting there all tan, told me he just enjoyed strawberry shortcake on the deck barefoot, and I could tell by the sun coming through the window it's a pretty nice day. So I did take my Zoom camera and point it outside at the snow blowing around. And guys pushing snow here at the office, so he definitely was in the right place. A lot of areas are drying out nicely. Jared top dressed our wheat here Tuesday, and we got 4 inches of snow on it on Friday. That's about perfect. Many areas are getting their wheat top dressed. Anybody who hasn't, I would look for that window of opportunity to get that done. This wheat will come out of dormancy very quickly. Some fields are dealing with tougher stands due to planting date and low-lying areas in the field. If those tougher wheat stands are going to corn, in case of a winter kill, I would still go ahead and top dress them. If they're going to beans, I would hold up, see how it overwinters. If you keep it, you may have to switch to urea instead of liquid to top dress it. Getting several calls out of Iowa about doing everything from field work to chiseling to anhydrous here in February. Now this is the area that's still in the D2, D3 drought. With the anhydrous, if the soil is firm enough to hold the tractor and the tank without creating track issues, I would say let it rip. The main thing to be sure of, that you're sticking with corn for this 24 crop. Growers have been kicking around the idea of going beans on beans with these markets. Once you put your anhydrous on, you're kind of locked in. Question about chisel plowing, spring chisel plowing, and in some cases where the cattle have been grazing. There again, if it's dry enough to get good soil shatter, my advice would be go ahead with one caveat. Level these fields in a matter of hours after the chisel. Now you might be able to chisel through the night and level during the day, but don't let this soil dry out and clod up on you. There may be very few freezing and thaw days left to melt a clod, and you don't want to be planting in clods out there in April and May. Level her up, pray for rain to give you a sterile seedbed to plant into. I would stick with shallow chisels, not deep ripping. The deeper we work this, the more risk we have if it doesn't rain. For some reason, the eastern half of Iowa is struggling to get rain. Questions about running vertical tillage in February up there as well. Here again, you need to be dry enough that the tractor tracks are not going to be a problem. But yes, level these fields up, pray for rain, and plant into that sterile seedbed. The same goes for row fresheners. If the soil will hold it, let it rip. It doesn't get much better than planting in a sterile seedbed. What about running my soil finisher and my high-speed disc on bean stubble? This gets a little trickier. To start with, 80% of the compaction service calls I go on in the summer are caused by the first pass in the spring. Yes, the one you're about to make. When we run the one-pass program in bean stubble, your horizontal layer will put in a barrier to moving water up and down through the soil. Come planting time out there in April and May, you could be out of water, can't get it up through the layer, or you could be too wet because you can't get water down through that layer. Keep those tools in the shed. Keep your powder dry and wait closer to planting when you're going to be able to control your water amount. The soil finisher really should stay a couple rounds ahead of the planter. And if it's like this past year, you want to keep your high-speed disc in the same pass as the planter, because our high-speed disc, again, are putting in a lot shallower layer, and that water leaves very quickly. Remember, your neighbor doesn't decide when your ground is fit. Just because the neighbors light up doesn't mean it's fit in your field. You know, neighbors have different soil types, different amounts of drainage, and They're not the ones that dictate what you do. Farmers run different tools. So if the neighbor is running a shallow vertical harrow, it may be dry enough for him to get started. But if you're going to run a soil finisher 4.5 or 5 inches deep, it very well may not be fit. You are the keeper of your own acres. I don't want to come up there and see these wheel tracks in your fields next spring or summer, or you're going to hear about it. It makes me a little nervous giving our Iowa guys a green light and wondering how many Illinois farmers will jump the starting line. We need more time in most fields here locally, but our time will be coming too if this weather continues. The crew is out testing ahead of Friday's snow. So if you haven't turned your spring soil testing orders in, let's get that done so we can clean them up.
To stay up to date, check out our website at croptechinc.com and subscribe to our podcast, Boots in the Field Report. Keep her safe, keep her moving.